Hello, my name is Taylor. I'm a financial coach. I've been using Monarch Money for over a year now, and some of my clients that have been using it are also coming up on their year mark too. So it's been a while, and it's been really cool to see all the growth that Monarch has done, all the changes they've made in such a short time as well. And so I did want to do this video on the things that I have been getting complaints about. I do consults with people from all over the country, and which is so awesome. Thank you so much if you're one of those people who have booked those calls. They're so fun to do. I love meeting you and seeing how you're using your app. But I do get a lot of the same questions or complaints, and I wanted to share this with you on this video so that when you're thinking about jumping into Monarch, you can either get those complaints validated or you can see if this is really the right app for you. Because I do think that Monarch is the best app. That's why I use it, or all my new clients. I will start with Monarch Money. I've been using it myself personally for a very long time. This is my favorite personally. I am not sponsored by Monarch, by the way. None of this is sponsored. This entire channel is not sponsored, but I do really love this budgeting app. But at the same time, it is not for everyone. I do not force budgeting apps on my clients. I try to use a budgeting app that works with the way their brain works. And sometimes there's some learning, some changes you have to kind of make mindset-wise for a new budgeting app. You have to do that for any new budgeting app that you adopt. But sometimes it's not really worth the battle, and there are just things that Monarch doesn't do quite as well as other apps if that's what you're looking for. So while these are complaints, I don't think that there's any of these are deal breakers for Monarch. It is just something to consider as I'm talking about these things. Maybe they might be for you, and that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with Monarch. I just think that you should lean into an app that is going to help you get your information about your finances so that you can make decisions as best as possible. And not every app will do that perfectly for everyone. So first off, the thing that I have to talk about, because it's the biggest one, this will probably take most of the video. Monarch promotes having the ability to manage all of your accounts in one place, see the balances, track your net worth, and run a budget. Now the problem is that it causes a little bit of misconception because your budget is not based on what is available in your accounts. Okay, so this is your budget column. This is your plan. This is you sitting down and kind of creating a plan of what you think your expenses should be. It helps you by showing you an average. It is purely based on what you think it should be, not on what is available in your account. Now, there's ways you can do that. You can manipulate the data so you can, get it to match. For example, with rollover features, let's say I have a sinking fund for clothing. And I have an account set aside for clothing. Like, I know the money's there. I am planning to use that. I just got started with Monarch, so I can set that up. If I know I have $500 in an account for clothing, I can set up a starting balance there. And then my budget will reflect what is actually in my account and what I'm planning to put back into that account. But, it doesn't, this budget column does not tell me I did do that. It doesn't mean that I did actually put $200 aside for it. I could have not chosen to do that, but it'll still be there. It does not, their budget does not, is not being driven by your bank accounts. So this number, also this thing right here, this is referring strictly to this column right here of what is left to budget. So it's saying that of your $8,400 that you expect to receive of income, you have assigned all but $230 of it in this column. It does not reflect actual expense. It doesn't reflect the remaining. It has nothing to do with really reality at all. It's just saying your plan in your head is you have $230 left over. And so if I'm expecting income of $10,000 and I'm budgeting in this with all of that $10,000, I'm going to put money into these columns, into these categories. Let's say I'm going to spend $1,000 on shopping. And that's going to get that down to zero. And I want this number to be to zero. But the problem is you'll notice, is that what if I didn't bring in $10,000? I only brought $8,400. But I'm jumping into my budget and I'm seeing I have $935 left to spend. I have $930 to assign. Well, that wouldn't be true. And so this is something that is really hard for a lot of people. If you are one of those people that really like to budget based on what is in your account, this probably isn't the app for you, because what you have to do with Monarch is you have to plan your expenses. You have to make sure you're staying within the goals that you've set. Don't go over your expenses. And then based on your budget, you're making changes to your account. You're using the budget to make changes to your account, not looking at your accounts to make changes to your budget. I know that's a weird nuance. It's just a little bit of a backwards concept there. But that's very useful for a lot of people because this is a more passive way to budget. If you know you have money, in the accounts, so you have a little bit of a buffer, maybe like $1,000 or so in your accounts, you're not going to overdraft. This is a way more passive way to budget, and a lot of people really prefer that. You can make it very active, don't get me wrong, but it's a very passive way to budget. So it is really hard to reconcile your account, meaning the numbers on here are like at the end of the month, your total expenses minus actual and what's remaining is not designed to match your bank account balance. And that is not a flaw in Monarch. It is just a different way of budgeting. Now you can manipulate this. So like if I'm planning to put $3,000 into my tax account, so I have a business account for Monarch. I do my business budgeting in Monarch. I put aside so let's say $3,000 a month for taxes. If I were to be doing that, I would see, my balance is $3,000. Did I actually make that transfer? And so I can go into my accounts and look at my tax account and say, oh, there's zero in there. I better make that transfer. So you can see how your budget drives the changes you're going to make to your accounts, but it does not reflect what's in your accounts. Same thing if, I go through the end of the month and I'm seeing that I do have money left over in my budget. Well, now it's letting me know that I can go to my accounts and say, well, I should have about $930 if I've done my budget correctly. Should have $930 there. I can go and pay off this credit card. So I'm going to move money. I'm going to make sure I have the balance there, make sure that all looks correct. It is not going to match unless you do some things that make it match, like I was doing with my tax account. Remember, I put money into the tax account and then afterwards I moved the money to match. It's coming after the budget. So it's a hard one. And so if you are the kind of person who wants to budget money only if it's available in the account, you want to make sure you're not overdrafting if you're living paycheck to paycheck, or you just like budgeting paycheck to paycheck. If you've been budgeting based on your account balance, like if you've been using an Excel spreadsheet and it's based on what you have in the account and what bills you can pay based on your balance in the account, Monarch may not be the app for you unless you're willing to do a mindset shift. If you like budgeting that way based on what's the account, I recommend apps like, I think Every Dollar has a paycheck to paycheck like calendar thing, but YNAB is my favorite to budget for things that are actually in the account, because you can only budget funds that are available in the account, and you even start with budgeting that whole whatever is available. That's how you set up your budget. Is you have $15,000 in the account. What is it supposed to do? Is it going towards rent? Is it, so there's a lot of different things to be aware of there, but that is the biggest complaint with Monarch. And so if that's not going to work for you, maybe you could always give it a shot, see if you like it. But most of the time, if that is something that you're not able to, if you just don't like it, if you just don't want to read it that way, you really want to make sure your budget matches what's in your bank account, I probably wouldn't use YNAB, or I probably wouldn't use Monarch. Couple more complaints is that Monarch is really, because it's not designed to show you what's in your accounts, it is also very difficult to see what you need to be putting towards credit cards if you are also using them and carrying a balance. If you're using your credit cards and paying it off in full every month, awesome, Monarch will be great for you. But if you're carrying a balance and still using the card, oh my goodness, it's a lot of mental gymnastics. You cannot find the data very easily, and here it is a lot of math. Like you have to do there's a lot of headache to figure out what your actual payment needs to be. So pay off what you put on and what your extra payments are. Not very great for Monarch. But if you're not using cards, and I'm really hard about clients with this, if they start using this app, we are not using cards anymore until those cards are paid off. Then Monarch will work great. So you have to commit to not using the cards, and there's some videos I've done to how to do that and still make progress towards paying off those cards. The other thing is this recurring calendar. It's a little deceiving. A lot of people will sign up thinking that they'll have all their bills on here, and Monarch will tell them, hey, you have a big bill coming up, you're going to overdraw on your account. That is not true, because like I said, nothing in this budgeting or the really nothing here is going to be doing math on what bills are going to come out, what is going to hit your account. It's not going to do that for you. This is almost a separate app. It has nothing to do with your budget. You could put a million things here and it will not affect your budget, your cash flow report, or your accounts. It's almost like a completely separate thing where you just have a calendar of bills. That's all it really does, is just alert you, hey, a bill's coming up, which can be nice if you have a lot of annual subscriptions, but not as functional as a lot of people I think expect it to be. This savings number can also be a little deceiving, because if you're putting money towards a credit card to pay off the balance, it will include that. So if I put $2,500 towards a credit card to pay off the balance, technically I saved for my past self, right? I've saved the money that I should have saved before I swiped the card and carried the balance. and I'm paying it after. That's okay. That's what the credit cards are supposed to do. But it will show that you had savings here. It'll show a savings rate, and that kind of sucks for people to understand and see. And so that's something that's also not super great with, but it is still accurate. I mean, you did save money. You saved enough to then use it to pay off the credit card, and that's awesome. And once you're done paying off the credit card, you could probably say, start actually putting this towards savings like investments or emergency fund or whatever else you want to do with your cash flow. All right, a couple other complaints I've seen are these rollovers are not very intuitive. They are a little tricky to use, and then they can really throw off your budget if you don't use them correctly. I have some videos on this, and I still think I'm getting a lot of questions on them, so maybe I'm not explaining it very well, but I suggest either turning all of them on or leaving them all off. Having just one or so, you have to really make sure you're doing it correctly. If you want to watch those videos and you're understanding what I'm saying and it's great, keep them, because I do the same thing. I only have a couple on. But I think for most people, if you're not really sure how these are working, either turn them all on or turn them all off. I would not have just one, because again, it's not very intuitive. You can carry over a balance that you don't actually have, and then it's throwing off your budget, and then you can't really trust your budget. The other thing I really hate about this is one feature that I really hope they change, like desperately, is this apply to all future months. Every time this changes, so like if I don't want to spend money on fitness this month and I want to spend it on clothes instead, I'm going to put 0, and it's going to change my budget for every single month unless I press this. And I hate this because I want to be able to manipulate my budget during the month. If you also hate that button, leave a comment, let me know, because I don't know why this is still here. I feel like everyone hates this, but maybe I'm crazy. If you like it, cool, tell me why. I'd love to hear it. But I hate this button. I wish it would stay off, or I wish it would not be the default. You also cannot do different budgets within the same login. So you can't have your business budget in the same login as your personal budget. You do have to have separate logins, separate accounts. That can be a little annoying. YNAB does do that. You can do 2 budgets in one account, but again, there's things about YNAB that are also really hard to deal with, and so there's pros and cons to each. So again, if you would like me to do some comparison videos of an app that you would enjoy seeing some comparison about Monarch, I'd love to do that for you. I'd love to do YNAB next if you want. If you have another budgeting app that's more pressing, let me know. But otherwise, let me know in the comments what issues you've been having with Monarch. Maybe tell us why you didn't stay with it. If you did move on, what was the common complaints there? I think it does help people make sure that this is going to be the right app for them. Again, I don't think that one budgeting app is for just everyone. There's a lot of different ways to consider your finances and to plan your expenses. And sometimes good old spreadsheets are what work for some people. So it really is very unique to you. I'm not trying to tell you that Monarch is the only app out there for sure. But if you have been switching between apps because you cannot find the right fit for you, it may not be the app, it may be your budget, it may be the way you're thinking about your cash flow. And so it might be a good time to schedule a session with me. Let's talk. As a financial coach, I help you make sure the budget you have, the way you're actually managing your cash flow, is going to reflect in any budgeting app. So what I do with my clients is we create the budget first, and then I decide how to set it up in their app, what app is best for them to use. Sometimes it takes some trial and error. Sometimes we start in Monarch, we move on to another app, and that's okay. But if you've been hopping between apps, again, it might not be the apps. So let's chat, let's talk, let's go through your whole financial picture so you can get everything on the table as far as your expenses go. I'd love to chat with you. You can look at my services on my website. The link is in the description below. I also do hour-long consults on just asking questions about Monarch. If you have your Monarch set up and you just want another person to look at it and see if there's anything else you can be doing with the app, if you have common complaints that I've talked about and you want to learn how to work around these complaints, let's chat. Feel free to schedule a call. Again, these are hour-long consults. You're welcome to sign up through my website if you have questions. So thank you so much. I am so grateful for all of you. So happy to have seen 1,000 subscribers on this channel because of Monarch Money and the tutorials I'm putting on. And so if there's anything I can do for you guys, tell me in the comments. I'd love to help you any way I can. So thank you so much.